Now, is my screen automatically sharing to people who are remote? So I don't have to do.
Well, let's see. So, you know,
You're muted for the people.
okay, now they should be able to hear you.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me at home okay? Just let me know. Put something in the chat.
We can hear you.
You.
All right. Can you hear me okay now? I feel like I'm the sprint guy. Can you hear me now? I just want to make sure it's not too echoey for people who are offsite.
It's picking you up. It's also transcripting it on there.
Sweet. All right. Well, we'll give that a go, and I just want to make sure that we can hear. All right.
Presentation in the Move app.
Pardon?
There's a presentation in the Move app.
The resources I'm going to show you are linked in the app.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. I'm going to show that right now. Yeah.
So make sure. Need to know how deep my notes need to go.
All right.
Yeah, there's a lot of people saying there's no echo.
There's no echo? Sweet. Oh, good. Good. I'm going to still sit kind of close here just to make sure. I love doing that. For those who are having fun, reliving kindergarten with the fall response stuff. There's too much stuff to present in the time we have. So what I'm going to do is do a quick run through of where all the resources are. They're on a single web page. I'm going to show you where that page is. Hold on. Hello? Now's probably not a good time. I'm presenting to a couple hundred people. Thank you. I thought it was a crank call, and I was going to have some fun with it, but anyway, it wasn't. Sorry, Mom. Don't do that again. Okay, I'm going to show you where all the resources live. It's at my blog, and so I'm going to show you where. Oh, it's dancing around here next to me. Under the description, I don't know why this is being a little freaky tweaky. Let me. There we go. The link right here, it's not a hot link in the description, but it's right there. So if you copy and paste that into a new tab, everything I'm going to show you launches from this page. Pardon? Right. What I'm saying is, if you're in the,
Is it in the chat or?
it's in the description. Right. Hold on. Let me scroll down. There we go. Yeah. When you go in and find this session right now for 3 o'clock, and you read this right here, scroll down, read my description underneath my picture, and you'll see a link in there. Thanks for asking. Just remember, when somebody asks, we know this, when one student asks a question, or in this case, somebody who's here, we know that a lot more people have that same question. So I appreciate it when people are brave and reach out. So if you're not sure about something, please ask, and I can point you to where the resources are. But because I am a chipmunk on speed, I talk fast. We're going to see how well the transcription goes, and I'm going to be going through a lot of material. It is the fire hose thing, but it's one of those things that if what I say resonates with you at any point while I'm here, you can then go dig into the page where that thing is. I expect a certain percentage of interest or retention. I don't expect 100%. 30 would be great. 10 would be great. This is not to give you everything. I just want to give you stuff that's going to be meaningful to you. And it will happen in 37 minutes or in 2 minutes. I don't know. And let me take this off a second. So having set that up, one of the critiques I get is you talk too fast, you have too much material, but then again, people want the stuff that I'm sharing and we only have some time. Now, I will do what Monty Python tell me to do. And when I say that, I set this joke up. I hope it lands. Here we go.
With it. Yes, get on with it!
Oh, I am enjoying this scene.
Get on with it!
Okay, so if you're a Monty Python fan, you know what I'm talking about, but basically get on with it. So here we are on this page and it's on my blog. And I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to show you a quick run through the whole page, and then I'm going to go back and go through the material until we run out of time. So first off, it has some background of why we do what we do. Storytellers rule the world. It's a Hopi proverb. We have some more detail. We have background. The why, like why do we do this? Why is this important? I do a survey ahead of time normally for you. Like, what do you want for TPEP? What are the most important things at TPEP for you? I want to hit all those. So usually I do a pre-survey and then I look at the data and say, okay, you want 3B, you want this if it's Danielson, and so on. And I prioritize my content to hit those things. Why? Because that's what we do. We know our audience and we do that. If you were this audience, this is what you wanted. This was a different session, and the data is, this is all of Danielson prioritized by the most frequently requested component. So again, pre-survey to go, what, this is what you want? Okay, let's tailor this to your needs. The data drives the actual workshop. That does take some time though. And number one is always 3C, engaging student learners. Changed, so I focus on that. So you're gonna get that today. I also have a Padlet for you to put questions, comments, whatever that's on the page right now, and I will visit this before I'm done. And again, when you come to the page here, you'll see a link and you can throw things down, request things, answers, other things that you wanted to offer up that you do, like you were sharing with me earlier, stuff like that. That's pretty awesome. How to get to the Padlet, it's right here on the page. You can use a fancy device and look at this on the page and get there. Play bingo? Yes, bingo, TPEP bingo. I think we need to do this at all our conferences. Everybody gets a bingo card, right? And every time you have one of these things presented in a workshop that you could use for 3B, 2C, or whatever, you mark it off which workshop it was. When your card is filled in, you bring it over to Francine, your Tessa, or somebody like that, and you get chocolate or something that we would think would be kind of fun. We gamify this lovely thing. And so I made a bingo card, and it's there, and we could randomize it, whatever. But I thought that would be kind of fun. And you can write down your notes for where they are, because TPEP is our standards. We have to do that for our administration. That's why we're here. So let's make this really relevant. Walk into every presentation knowing what goodies am I getting to be able to show off to my administrator with this. Yeah.
I'm a new teacher and I don't know what TPEP is.
It's our standards, our teacher standards.
Okay.
So it's what we're accountable for to our administration. It's what's on the test. Sorry. Yeah.
Don't need that.
Yes. It's both. If I do my job with presentations that don't suck, it's going to be TPEP goodness. Like I'm going to hit a whole bunch of the standards in TPEP just by using slideshows better. And so my hope is that you'll go, hey, this could be a TPEP workshop. So I start with this because any learning experience has to be driven by the standards. Well, your standards are TPEP. So if I'm not addressing that directly with my tools and strategies, then you shouldn't be here. So that's my pitch. So thank you. It's like a plant. I'm so glad you asked that question. So, okay. I'll continue moving forward here. 21st century skills. I have some materials in here to talk about how we address those with doing better presentations. I used to have hair, then I didn't have hair, now I have hair again. Long story, just fun. What I do is, there's a really cool quote from a book that's pretty famous. Basically, my hope is to serve you with the work that I'm putting forward here today. That's what this says. You can read and get inspired. I know I read it and got inspired. The story was on the wall of my cousin's house. He's Scott Cook. You might know him. He's worth about $3.7 billion now. He started Quicken and Intuit. So Intuit's company, Quicken, TurboTax, that's him. And really great guy, nice family. This is on their kitchen wall. And so I was sitting there looking at it going, hey, that's what we do as teachers. So moving onward, andragogy is the study of adult learning. You can dig into that. How do adults learn? We learn differently than students, the kids. So how do we address that? And this stuff goes into that. Andragogy, we are teaching young adults. So we need to understand that our young adults need more andragogical stuff, less pedagogical stuff. What does that mean? Stop telling them what to do, have them co-author the learning experience. I just boiled it down to one statement. Don't do things to them, do things with them. Everything, you have to deliver something to your administrator, plan it with the students, tell them what's at stake for you. Things that you have to do. Tell them, say, hey, this is my issue, let's do this together as a team. We dive in there. Bloom's taxonomy, we all know about that stuff. It's fun to review and how we address that. I color code the standards based on the complexity of the verb that Bloom does. We're going through that. And then you can't present more than 8 to 10 minutes without people tuning out. You need to break it up, do something else, parent share, some kind of thing. Brain just can't absorb that. It needs a break every 8 to 10 minutes. And so I made this little cycle to do every 8 to 10 minutes in class. Same with your slideshows and stuff like that. Then we have to get on with it. We already saw that. And this is a little bit about me. I've been teaching for 25 years and so on and so forth. I'll skip over that. And I have other resources to share about how the philosophy and theory behind what is, makes good presentations work. So again, that's the facts. And then we have an example of one that's just stellar. It's just a couple minutes. We have a student sample that's incredible. And then how do we start actually making these with our kids? Because I want your kids to make these slideshows, not you. I mean, you have to make them too, but really we want them to make them and make them quick and fast and really brain friendly. So how do we do that? Brainstorm, brainwrite, brainstorm. We go back and forth with that process. We talk about that process. I've got some resources here about how to have students do that and pitch any work they need to do for your class should be pitched. And then you can talk about the concepts and less about them making some really lame thing that the learning is lost without the conceptual thinking through before they start. So a lot of the thinking through is where the learning is happening. So how do we do that? That talks about that. Then the building stage, and then the presentation stage of creating a slideshow with lots of resources embedded in that. And do my slides suck? Nice little checklist here from a professional presenter, really fun. And then I have a whole student project on how to create slideshows, and that is embedded here. And I have resources like a feedback form that you can use with kids. This is a presentation form for small teams that they can use when they're creating their presentations and sharing them with the class and preparing. Here's the PDF files of those. Using Kahoots at the end to see if actually anybody learned anything, and build that with the kids and saying, hey, this is what I hope to learn at the end of it. And they can give you feedback after the slideshow to see if it was actually effective. Outgearing my brain research behind cognitive load theory, Edward Tufte and how visual data, visual literacy is really undermined by PowerPoint. And one of the space shuttles blew up because of that. The first one, it was a lack of communication by the technical crew. They did not say to the political arm of NASA, the mother lover is going to blow up. It is impossible for this thing to launch. They did not say that. Literally, they did not say those words. They had a presentation and it did not get across the fact that it will fail. We're certain. Tufte talks about it in one of his books, saying that PowerPoint kills. It is a bad tool, improperly used. It is a really bad tool. And it's mostly improperly used. But how do we use it properly? Well, we'll talk about it. Limitation by design, stand and deliver. So, and then wrapping up, that is in my resources. Whew. Now, I do this as an all-day workshop. I also do it as a 3-hour workshop. And when I have to, 43.5 minutes. So that's why I just did this, because if you're interested, dig into some of these resources. You know how to get a hold of me. My contact stuff is on this page. Feel free to shoot me emails and whatnot and get real specific and say, what about this? What about that? Now, I'm going to take you through the greatest hits of this to kind of wet your whistle and kind of show you how I would do this with my students. But first, we have to set it up with a little bit about the brain research. And I'm going to go to this video right here. See if I can make it bigger. Going back to the top of my blog, we're going to talk about, so why? What's at stake? And knowing the limitations of the brain is the first place to start. And this is for you, but also for students to think, oh, yeah, it's impossible to do two things at once, especially when you're presenting.
Brain rule number 10. Vision trumps all other senses. Nowhere was this more evident than during an actual test done with 54 wine aficionados. Researchers went to ground zero of wine tasting, the University of Bordeaux in France, They dropped in odorless, tasteless red dye into white wines, then gave it to 54 wine tasting professionals. With only their visual sense altered.
Pause for 1 second, go back. I think the video's off sync here. That should solve it.
With only their visual sense altered, the expert noses of the enologists were fooled. When given the visually altered white wine, they used all the vocabulary of reds in describing the taste. Vision is so powerful that it trumped even the best wine tasters in the world. How does the vision rule work in the workplace? Let's go take a look.
Control, we have a 310 in progress. Request backup.
10-4, what's your location?
The Dander building. Conference room.
Backup on the way.
Dispatch, please be advised. Use extreme caution. This sicko has 5 hostages. And he's using bullets.
Let's go to the next bullet point. The Dander 500 offers new and improved and revolutionary technology.
Smile politely. Look like you're interested. My boss will be impressed that I can sit through yet another one of these.
If I had a knife right now, I would slit your throat, hang you upside down, and let your blood roll out until it made a nice little pool all over the carpet.
He doesn't even notice me. It's like I'm invisible.
He doesn't even notice me. It's like I'm invisible.
Oh, why even pretend?
The Dander 500 is a winner, and a no-brainer, and gross. Great. A portion of our profits also help to fight stress in the workplace. Okay, let's try something else. Let's try the next picture. Now you can see here, the Dander 500 works in any household. And it also works on any surface, such as leather couches or even satin couches. So you see, the Dander 500 can be used almost anywhere. Yes, yes. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, the Dander 500. Oh, God, no. Next picture. Next picture. Oh, the Dander. No. Let's go back. How do we go?
Stand down. Situation resolved.
Thank goodness. He started using pictures.
So do the world a favor and remove as much text as you can from your PowerPoints and succumb to the incredible efficiency of pictures. You'd think the decades of reading books and the ingredients on the back of cereal boxes would make the visual system very efficient at recognizing words without needing first to identify the letters. That's exactly what you don't find. Our brain sees the letters in words not as letters, but as tiny pictures, and we have to identify certain features in each letter to be able to read the word. Otherwise, the word is unreadable. That takes time. In fact, it's a bottleneck. We are incredible at remembering pictures. Hear a piece of information, and 3 days later, you'll remember 10% of it. Add a picture, and you'll remember 65%. Why is vision such a big deal to us? Perhaps it's because it's how we've always apprehended major threats, food supplies, and reproductive opportunity. The folks at Getty Images are in the business of selling pictures. Take a look and see what they have to say.
Well, in Brain Rules, we learned that vision trumps all other senses. And what that means is that a picture will always have the ability to stop someone in their tracks and communicate an idea in a way that no other medium can.
Ants continue to be in our top-selling concepts. The 3 of them carrying the leaf, which is all about teamwork and effort and do it together and you can do anything. And then what happens if you crop 2 of them out and you leave the one ant on its own with that huge leaf on its back, suddenly it tells a completely different story.
One of the challenges in business is to differentiate your product or service from a competitor's. And a central component of that is your brand and how you express your brand. What we deliver is the visual component of that.
The goldfish have been in our top sellers for as long as I can possibly remember. And it's this idea of going against the stream, standing out from the crowd. In one, he's leaping away from, the standard life, and then the other one, he's already there. From a customer perspective, what this means is that my product stands on its own.
All right, I got one other piece of information that I think is helpful with understanding. This is a great presentation. The only thing is, he tells a joke in the beginning and it has the F word in it. So if you're gonna share it with kids, it's great if you just move past the joke. Joke's hilarious. You need to see it. I think you'll appreciate it. He makes his point. But in here, now Andrew Stanton wrote Toy Story, a bunch of other Pixar, he either wrote or co-wrote, pretty good storyteller. So he knows a few things, but I want him to make a point here that is gonna help us with the structure of how we build up.
Narrator in it, and I always thought it was such a fantastic device. It's like a guy inviting you around the campfire, or somebody in a bar saying, here, let me tell you a story. It didn't happen to me, it happened to somebody else, but it's gonna be worth your time. A well-told promise is like a pebble being pulled back in a slingshot and propels you forward through the story to the end. In 2008, I pushed all the theories that I had on story at the time to the limits of my understanding on this project. Storytelling without dialogue. It's the purest form of cinematic storytelling. It's the most inclusive approach you can take. It confirms something I really had a hunch on, is that the audience actually wants to work for their meal. They just don't want to know that they're doing that. That's your job as a storyteller, is to hide the fact that you're making them work for their meal. We're born problem solvers. We're compelled to deduce and to deduct, because that's what we do in real life. It's this well-organized absence of information that draws us in. There's a reason that we're all attracted to an infant or a puppy. It's not just that they're damn cute. It's because they can't completely express what they're thinking and what their intentions are. And it's like a magnet. We can't stop ourselves from wanting to complete the sentence and fill it in. I first started really understanding this storytelling device when I was writing with Bob Peterson on Finding Nemo, and we would call this the unifying theory of 2 + 2. Make the audience put things together. Don't give them 4, give them 2 + 2.
Okay, we're gonna take a break for 2 minutes. I'd like you to talk to somebody near you. And so far what we've learned today, well, hopefully, is from John Medina, who's an incredible professor, lives in Seattle, does brain research material. We learned about how vision trumps everything and other limitations and power that we have with our brain. We also didn't just learn here, this 2 + 2. Don't give your students 4, give them 2 + 2. How do we hold information back? And some of our best teaching experiences where we make them guess, or they have to put things together. But in our presentations, how could we do that? So what have we learned so far today? And if there's anything you'd like to share with each other, just in 2 minutes when we come back together, just talk to somebody near you about what you've learned so far, or how do you do the 2 + 2? Okay, let's do that for just a couple minutes.
The other one.
Sorry about the volume on the alarm there. So what had happened is my phone alarm went off after 8 minutes, right when I said we were about to do the parent share, just kind of team up and talk about things. So I'm trying to honor what I'm talking about, and just to prove that I'm not lying to you, okay, I've got it set for another 8. So I need to pause at 8 minutes and let you process. Otherwise, I'm just a fool up here saying one thing and not following my own advice. Anyway, hopefully interesting things were shared. If we had more time, we do a little call out because you're incredible. You have a lot of experience. And just like Mark shared with me, where's Mark? Mark, right back there. Mark shared something about learning 5 things about kids in the beginning of the school year. A really cool technique that I'm going to now try that because it was really impressive. He just shared that with me before we started today. So conferences are for this, the sharing of like, oh my gosh, that changed the way I do what I do. Especially if you're new to this, you're awesome. Be patient with yourself. It took 8 years for a master teacher who sat next to me for 50 years, he taught. He said to him 8 years to feel like he knew what he was doing. I was cocky my first year thinking, whatever. It's 25, and I joked in the last session that I feel like I'm a first-year teacher. It's my 25th version of being a first-year teacher. So be patient with yourself. You're awesome. Thank you for doing what you do. Okay, let's jump back in and go into some more stuff. So we kind of set it up a little bit of the why, and we're starting to get into a little bit of the how. This book by the Heath brothers called Made to Stick talks about how we remember really good stories or information. And they have a model, and I created this document as a check for a presentation. If you make a presentation that's simple, unexpected, concrete, credible, emotional, and embedded in a story, it's irresistible. If you have at least 4 of these things, people are going to remember what you're doing. Now, it takes time to do that, but if you keep it simple, tell a joke, it's unexpected, but also emotional. You got somebody to laugh. So there's ways to do this that you can leverage. So it's just another tool that we can put in there to go. Now, if you don't have time to read the book, because you just sit around and don't do anything, because you're a teacher, right? This slideshow that's embedded right here, which you can, it's being a little flaky right here. You can go full screen with this, and it's like 25 slides. It'll get the point across. It does a nice job, and it just takes you a few minutes. Okay, moving on. We're going to look at a master presentation, just a couple minutes of it. And this model or this template is what I would advise us to use. Now, when I say this, you have to decide 2 things when you're making a presentation. Are you using it just to give a lot of data to the kids? Because that's not really a presentation. They need to take notes and you want a lot of information on screen. You're not really presenting. That's fine, because you just put it on screen, but just don't talk, because they can only process what's there. So if you have a bunch of information for them to take notes, great. You might want to just give them that information, but again, if that's too much paper or whatever. But again, if it's there just for them to digest, set a timer, sit down quietly, roam around the room, check in with kids, but let them process that information. If you're going to present, one thing at a time, verbal or visual, and we'll talk about working together with that in a little bit as well. So this would be an example of a presentation.
Somebody I've known.
And we're going to watch the first 2 minutes of it. The content is about having basically a digital driver's license. that you could like sign into a website. You wouldn't need passwords for every website. You would just use something kind of like Google's doing. This was, a pitch a long time ago, but he introduces himself. I'm thinking that if you have your students introduce themselves like this, hint, hint, I've got a model for you. This would be really cool and it'd be memorable. And next year when I see you, I'm going to ask you about any of the information in this part of the slideshow of what he presents. You will remember something. And he won't even say it. He'll just show it to you and you're like, oh yeah, the guy. You're incredibly intelligent. It's just, we have to not get in the way of that. We need to leverage it. So here, let's watch a couple minutes and just let it kind of wash over you.
For almost a decade now, has a brilliant presentation style and something that I thought, as soon as I saw it, we really have to bring this to OzCon. You will walk away with your mind blown by the next speaker. Please welcome up Dick Hart, founder and CEO of Skip.
I don't really know I'm going to follow up that introduction. Thank you, Nat, for the opportunity to talk about something that I think is really important for this community. So I'm going to talk about, what is identity? What is Identity 2.0? Why will it happen? Where are we now? So to start off with, what is identity? Well, I think identity is who you are. So who am I? Well, if you don't know Dick, this is me. Dick Clarence Hart, and for many, a number of people here, they remember my identity as being at HIP Communications, where I got involved in Perl, which eventually led to Active State with O'Reilly. But some of you probably don't know that I live in Canada, which is located here, for those of you that don't know. And I live in the province of BC, which is over here, the city of Vancouver, which looks like this from the sky, courtesy of Google. We have the Olympics coming up, which is causing its own identity crisis. I live in the part of Vancouver called Gastown, which is located right here, is where I live, which is also where our office is. In case you didn't notice, I'm male. This is when I was born, which makes me 42, over 19, over 21, over 25, and under 65. I went to school at UBC. I now work at Skip. I'm the CEO, I'm the founder, I'm the board member, and to lots of my staff, I'm the bartender. I belong to this organization, this organization, this organization. I blog here, I blog here. I have these email addresses. This one obviously indicates I'm part of the .Mac revolution. I have these phone numbers. I bank here, and often enough they treat me well. I fly in this airline. I'm then part of this program, which I fly often enough. I'm Starlance Gold, which gives me nice little perks, which I think are really important. So identity is also what I like. I like the Canucks. I like the Grizzlies, at least until they got sold. These are books that have influenced me, magazines that I follow to find out what's going on, and movies that I relate to. And obviously I like Apple equipment. This is what I like to wear. This is what I like to drive. So that's me. That's part of my identity. So how is it conveyed? Well, historically it's been verbal.
Okay. So he just introduced himself. And what I'd like you to do now is, in your table groups or whatever, what did you notice about both the content and the structure of his presentation? Let's talk amongst ourselves for a couple
Some people are chiming in on chat.
Let's see what people say. All right. I was just telling people who aren't here that I will echo, so I'm going to ask you some of the things that you noticed about both the structure and the content, and I'm going to echo that. Now, Owl does a pretty decent job, but in case it doesn't, I'll just echo that. And we have eyes and ears here that's going to represent the chat, because we're awesome. We got this dialed in. Okay, so what did you notice about either one, content or the structure? Yeah.
If you push speed correctly, it will increase engagement and comprehension.
If you push speed appropriately, effectively, it will increase comprehension and engagement. Yeah. If you keep it moving, people are like, remember, slides are free. Don't stack up 6 things on a slide, have 6 slides. And go bam, bam, bam. Now, the only thing is you have to know your stuff. Right there, it's like, oh. Now, Gar Reynolds is a professional presenter. He trains people. He was one of the main people behind famous people like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs' presentation style, Gar Reynolds. Gar used to work at Apple. And he says it's a 1-to-20 ratio. Right there. Yeah, you got it. Awesome. This is the head of our advisory committee. She's amazing. It's Michelle Cleary. He said it's a 1-to-20 ratio. If you're doing a 1-minute presentation, you're going to need 20 minutes to prepare. You're doing a 1-hour presentation, 20 hours. And if you're going, I'm a teacher, I'm not a presenter. But this is where we can work with our kids. Co-author the experience. If you spread that out, and this takes some time, but I declare to you, it's worth the investment to train your kids about this stuff and then take your content, saying, we got to get this in all our heads. How are we going to do it? You know, especially kids go, I don't know what this is. Like, well, let's look it up and see how can we find analogies or ways to make it stick. And then, you know, challenge, okay, you're going to take unit 1, you're going to take unit 2, you're unit 3, your job, make us care. Another thing that Andrew Stanton said in his presentation, simple rule, make me care. Well, how do we do that? Well, we learn about the brain, we learn about the limitations of presentation, we take the stickiness from the Heath brothers, and now we know how to make the brain care. We can start to leverage that. Okay, other things you noticed about the structure or content? Back there.
So it was one color, one everything, and where it looks, so you can speed up how you work the process.
Exactly, you're not, you know, looking all over the place, it's like bing, 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 bing. So yes, the structure again allows us to process quicker. Thank you for that.
One thought per slide.
One thought per slide.
Is either a phrase, a word, or a logo.
Right. And because it's one thought or idea per slide, we can move quicker and people can process. It's a conveyor belt into our brain, and it's very narrow. And we can, you know, it's just the rub of like, I have so many standards. I have half the time because of COVID. Yeah. You know, we're trying to like shovel this stuff in. And the thing is, we just have to just give up. I'm French, German, and Dutch. The French side just flies, the white flag flies, you know. Now, if you're French and you're really pissed off I said that, I'm not worried because you won't do anything about it. Sorry, my French accent. The German side's going, it's true. So anyway, the point is we have to work within those constraints and think of, you know, acceptable loss. Your advisory committee is going to help you with this, because if you say, hey, advisory committee, you wonderful people, prioritize. What is the most important thing I should cover this year? I have 180 hours or less, 60, whatever the limit is. What should be the number one thing to take away that we ask every kid in the class, and they just without a heartbeat, they would tell you what it is. And what's the second thing? And the third thing? And then help me with that, you know, and then bring the kids in on that. Say, we want you to be successful. Everybody's stressed out. We want you to go into your future confident, proud of who you are. We're on the same side here. And so how do we do this? How do we collaborate? How do we work together? So one more thing, either here or remote, that you notice about the content and the structure. What do you need? A seat? Yeah. So anywhere in the front here, Jim's right over here. You got Jim. And you can have a seat on the floor, you can grab a chair. This is my daughter, Jamie Ellen. First time she's ever seen me present. I know.
Because we're gonna be over here trash talking.
Right. So timer. Okay, what word? Okay, over here. Yes.
He was using humor as well, partly because of the speed, but he would also say, and this, and this, and this, and he's putting it through, so highly engaged.
Sure. On that note, using humor, is what was said. What's something you remember about his content? What does he like? Just, you can shout it out. What's that? Hockey? Canadian? What was that? Oh, there was, what did you say?
It's an apple.
There we go. So here's the thing, what people are saying, and this is something we have to remember as well, you resonated with stuff you already like, or that you already understand. Somebody smarter than me said that we only see what we know. The frustration about that is that really needs to sink in and go, whoa, how the frick am I going to do my magic? You know, they have constructs in their brain to put information in. We have to know what that is. Whoa, you know, I have to know my kids. I have to know what constructs they already have so we can glue the new idea to the old ideas that are in their head. They like to ride horses. I need to, you know, that helps me go. It's kind of like when you're riding a horse and, the person's like, yeah, no, you don't ride a horse. But the point is, we have to know our students. And then right there, that slows the train down. So like, But we do that, invest the time into that. And we have them co-author the presentations with us, and they know that it needs to resonate with the audience. By the way, when you come back next year and I say, what do you like to drive? If you were here and you like cars, it's, oh yeah, that dude that did the Canadian Porsche. Look, you know, it just sticks with you. I asked my students this a month after I showed them this stuff, and they just start name dropping books, movies, and things that they resonated with. He never said Porsche or Porsche. Never said it. He just said, I like to drive this. You see the logo, boom. You made an impression because you already have the information in your head and you like it. So we are incredibly brilliant and really intelligent if we know how to work these particular mechanisms in our brain. Now let's move on to the next piece. So I think we laid the groundwork now, philosophy, theory. We looked at an example. How do we start making presentations? And I'm going to posit. I like the word posit, P-O-S-I-T. It sounds really intelligent. I'm going to pitch an idea. I'm just trying to sound smart. I just learned a word. But I want to propose an idea that let's have the kids learn how to make presentations by making one about themselves. Because two things. One, they already know the content. They're the expert in them. So we just remove that from the stress. Second thing, we can now just focus on the structure of a presentation to make it really brain friendly. And the third thing that's really cool is we're going to learn more about it with the kids. Because the kids will pitch them in class. And we can then teach them the learning style or the pitch style of like one slide after the other. And they can sit in their seat. It's not about them presenting it as much. They don't have to stand like proper, posture and whatever. Just low stress. The introverts can be over there. Experts that want to get up in front of everybody, go for it. Make you happy, go for it. But the idea is we're going to learn more about each other. So how do we do that? What I have the students do is do a brainstorm, nay, a brainwrite. I've mentioned two horse things so far. Nay. Have them do a brainwrite, and right here, I'm going to show you something. Life hack for generating ideas. I learned this a few years ago. When you want kids to generate ideas, watch this stuff. It's really cool. The link, I just clicked on the link on my page. So if you're like, where is he now? It's there under generating brain ideas. A brainwrite is an introverted activity done quietly. The student writes down, they draw a circle on a page, piece of paper, whatever. By the way, get the frick frack. I'm saying frick frack, second time today. Foul mouth guy. Get them in the analog. They have to be off technology. And research is out there, like when you have a pen and paper or pencil and paper, interacting with physical stuff is way better for retention. But have them a sheet of paper, half sheet, whatever, draw a circle in the middle, and the thing in the middle of the circle is the focus of the presentation. And they can just write their name, because it's about them. And any presentation you make forever, please do this on a Post-it note and stick it on your computer screen, because you'll lose focus. Like, what's this presentation about? Figure out what the core message is. Write that down on a Post-it note, stick it on the screen so it's right there. And then when you bird walk on Facebook or whatever, you're like, oh, back to this is what I'm supposed to be focusing on. But when you're in the presentation, everything you're saying should come back to the main message somehow. If your bird walked too far, which I do all the time, I gotta go, oh shoot, how does that reinforce the core message? If it doesn't, get it out. Because again, we have limited bandwidth to process stuff. So have them brain write, 2 minutes. Circle their name, jump, write down ideas. And they're right away gonna be stuck. They're gonna be like, I don't know what to say. And I'm gonna come back to some ideas to jumpstart for them to focus on. And I'll show you that in a moment. But what they do then, after the timer goes off for 2 minutes, then do a brainstorm. Turn to their neighbor and share some of the things they wrote down. And it's just a share, here's what I wrote down, here's what I wrote down, and then go back into a second brain write. Because just that brainstorming is going to give them new ideas like, oh yeah, I have pets. Yeah, I have a cat. And then do another brainstorm. You can go back and forth like this till the cows come home. Notice how I didn't reference horses, now I'm talking about cows. I'm from Wisconsin, so originally. So that's what this is for brainstorming and brainwriting. And then we talk about storyboarding. And the great thing about storyboarding, and I'm going to come back to my main presentation here so you can see this, is you take a piece of paper and fold it in half 4 times. Hamburger, hot dog, doesn't matter. It ends up the same. Then unfold it and you have 16 little rectangles on each side of the page. Every rectangle will be a slide. Verbatim, they need to write what's going to be on the slide. Letter by letter, just because I tell the students, if I were going to make the slideshow for them, if they give me their piece of paper, I could go build a slideshow. Think about Dick Hart. That style, it should be really easy. That word, I put it on the slide. Done. Next slide, next slide. The only exception is if they want to have an image. So in the little piece of paper, they would just write picture of cat. So word, picture of cat, picture of whatever, Green Bay logo, or whatever. So you look at it and go, I'm going to have an image or I'm going to have words, one or the other, not both. When they're done with that piece of paper, they could give it to me. I could go build a presentation. Now, it might not be the cat, but it'd be a cat. And I try to tell them, nobody cares. Have a tabby cat. But it's not my tabby cat. We don't have a half hour for you to go find a picture of Snuggles. All right, you don't have one that's just like, just pick a cat, throw it there, make it a tabby or whatever. It's good enough. Because kids will run down those rabbit holes and spend a half hour looking for the picture. We'll talk about that in a moment as well. Hold on. 45 seconds to wrap this part up. So when they're done with this, this is the best part. They just made their slideshow. They come up to you, hold a piece of paper, and go blah, 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 blah. And I go, clap, clap, clap. Hey, I got some feedback. Give them some feedback. Write it on the paper. They go down, sit down, and kind of come up with version 2. You can do this with the whole class. They can also pitch it to each other. And come up with modifications, revisions, and so on. Okay? That is like 80% of the slideshow. I'm going to show you technically how to make a big part of the slideshow next. But first, my alarm is going to go off saying, quiet, Scott, be quiet now. You need time to process. So what I'd like you to do right now is talk amongst yourselves about this technique of using a piece of paper in your content. And how do you think this would work for you in your curriculum? Would you use it at the beginning of the year? Would you do the students introducing themselves? And after that, if you did, what content? How do you see using this? Would it be beneficial? And if it wouldn't be, I'd like to hear about that too. So 2 minutes, talk about yourself. I decided to use the clap thing instead of the loud beep, just because it seemed a little more humane. My favorite transition thing, especially for kids who have a hard time with transitions, is amplifying music, slowly turning music up. Whatever you do, like culturing your learning community into some kind of process that works for them to transition. I like the music one. So about 30 seconds before you start turning the music up, and then they you know how it is. You're having a good conversation. You're making meaning. It's brilliant. It's the whole reason you're at this conference. And then some jerk is like, no, we got to move on to something else. And we're like, no, this is the goal. Anyway, I just share that. So what are a few things that you shared out that you might use with this process? Anything in particular you'd like to share? Yes, Becca.
We have questions about the 16 sections and how, why 16 sections?
Oh, it's just because when you fold a piece of paper in half 4 times, when you unfold it, you have 16 little rectangles.
Does that have anything to do with you wanted their PowerPoint to be 16 slides?
No. In fact, they're usually 50 or 100. So, to give you an idea, and we use both sides of the paper. We use more than one sheet of paper. Great question. I don't know if you heard that at home, but why it has nothing to do with the number of cells on a piece of paper or slides. For instance, if I say, hi, my name is Scott. I'm from Green Bay. Okay, that's 9 slides. So when kids say, how many slides do I need? I'm like, just don't go there. Let go. Okay, think of a Disney song.
So she had a really good idea. She was saying her kids have trouble breaking it down. And she was saying put the 16 in and then have to hold it again. So they could teach each one and break that into 4 smaller ideas.
You can only hold so much.
Right. No,
She was just saying of that idea of,
yeah.
then take that idea in there and break that down.
Sure. This is why I present at conferences, because I get smarter. It's very selfish. So I love getting these ideas. What you shared today, what you shared today, what you just shared, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go back to my laboratory with my minions. I'm going to foist this upon them. And if it works, great. If it doesn't hurt you. But thank you for try it on our minions. But yeah, give it a go. Your concept is really interesting, and if you do it, it works. Let me know next time you're at a conference or whatever, because it's like we're getting smarter with this process. But I find that the paper process, the pre-production, is the most important part, because if they make a really, well, lack of a better term, plain presentation, you can stop it before they spend time in slideware, before they commit to a whole bunch of pictures, something that they're really, really like, but it's actually pretty useless from a cognitive whatever process, because it's about getting to know the students. But if we're helping them be better at presenting, we want to help direct it at a point that's meaningful before they get on any kind of technology. And so the paper thing, we go back and forth until the presentation's solid. And I can see it. When they're holding it there, I can see it. I can literally see the words, and I can imagine a tabbing cat. I can imagine a picture, whatever. I got mine. I can see it. And I'm like, oh man, that's great. I'm like, ooh, you should put a joke here. Show a picture of a cow when you mean a computer on wheels. So I went to check out the cow. Yeah, Bessie. Oh, yeah. And then, haha, teachers laugh and move on to the next slide. So there's opportunity, because I'm like, wait, you need to get people to feel, get them to laugh, wake them from their slumber. Ooh, let's put some jokes in here, some kind of sleight of hand. You may not know me. I'm from Canada. For those who don't know where Canada is, it doesn't take much to get a joke, and just a sleight of hand or overstating the obvious. Real easy joke to go to. Okay, because we're running low on time, I got like 7 minutes or less. I want to show you how to build the slide, just the mechanics of it, because it's a really simple process. And like I said, 80% of the work we've already done. Do the paper thing, brainstorm, brain right, share out, pitch back and forth until it's solidly built on paper. And then we go, okay, we actually have to make a slideshow. So I'm going to use Google And I'm gonna do this live in front of no net. Oh boy, what could go wrong, right? I always like to do it this way because, you know, when the smart Alex is like, oh, it's really easy, just do this. And then of course, it doesn't work when you do it. Now, you might say to yourself, I know how to make a slideshow. Well, here's the thing. This is really low tech. The high tech part is absent. It's high concept, low tech. We already did all the concept stuff. You already got it. And I forgot your first name. Jeffrey. Jeffrey just explained to me before we got started a concept that he uses. I'm going to say now. Insert black slides, just blank slides, when you want to make meaning with the audience. So, because here's the thing. You're going to look at this. This, I can't compete with this. My voice has a 30% potential to get into your head. This has like at least 60%. It's not a fair fight. You're just looking at it because it's there. If I go black right there and say, okay, listen to this, blah, 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 and be a storyteller just using my voice, or say, what do you think? Okay, cool, let's go back in the presentation. Then next slide, I have more content. I had not thought of that, and I'm going to start doing that. So just insert a blank slide. Now, one thing I'm going to present and pitch as a proposal, and I think I'm right, always have a black backdrop. Here's why. I'm going to go full presentation mode here. View, present. Ah, it's gorgeous. Okay, what you're seeing here is absolutely nothing except, you know, this has some sex appeal right there. That thing, not as much, but it's still, you know, it's worthy. It's a, you know, the friend who's hanging around for the album. So what you're seeing here is you're starved for any kind of media, any kind of stimulation. And whatever is there, you're laughing up. Like, yeah. You got vanilla, I'll eat it. It's something. When you have a black background, you own the wall. Now, yes, you do see a little differentiation here. If you don't, optometrists are good people. Now, it's very subtle, but the thing is you own the wall. I'm gonna go back in and put one word with the maximum, well, the most important design rule there is, contrast. If you talk to designers, the number one design rule is contrast. Black on white. I got an amen for the fist pump. So what I recommend, here's the thing, avoid the fight with your students and say, you must have a black screen, the font has to be white. And they're like, what? Like, you can pick whatever font you want. You're welcome. So they have a choice. They have a choice, pick a font. But remember, fonts have character. But so when they choose a font, only one font. Pick one and stick with it. Don't be flopping all over the place with different fonts, because we, being very smart, incredible people, will look at a change in font, even italicized change, and go, some change. Why? Is that significant? If it's not, you sent us on a wild goose hunt. Don't do that. If you make it italics because it's important, okay, you know, you're reinforcing something without having to say it, without hitting them over the head. 2 + 2. So let's go back here and let's put one piece of text in. But first, I got to show you something called the master slide. And I'm going to zoom in here. Less here. The master slide controls the look and feel view, and it's actually called the theme builder. It used to be called the master slide in Google. Now they call it the theme builder. But you can control the look and feel of the whole presentation here. So here's the thing. This whole section, delete it. You may go, why? Because you don't need a whole bunch of words on a slide anymore. I then take this section and I drag it down and put it right here in the middle. And wait, I mean, it could be a little above the middle. And I'm going to center it. And if I do this, there we go. When I zoom in like that, okay, there it's centered. Now it's a little bit small, I can make it bigger, but for time, I'm just going to leave it like that. Now I'm going to turn the theme builder off, and I'm going to make a slide. I'm going to make a new slide. So, whoops. And I'll come down here, and when I click here, I got this. Sometimes, and this is a little goober, there's an invisible box over the top of this. This is one of those things, I do have it on my webpage to talk about. These are sub master slides, and this one right here is the one it's using, and actually no, it's this one. And this little box right here gets in front of the header, because I dragged the header down, and you have to delete that box. This is the one thing that's going to upset you later on. Like, why is the freaking box there? Yeah. Like, that's the only goober with this process. So I'm going to delete. I'm going to do this again. I'll make a new slide. and and I go like that, and I can make a new slide, and I'm not doing shortcuts, but if I want to be faster, I do is, and I'm going to go into view and present, and hi. Okay, just jumps off screen. My name is Scott, I forgot it is, but now here's the thing, even if it's this small, I would make it bigger, but it's just standing there. Now, the only other thing I would add into the slideshow is images. And the images would stand alone, be as high quality as you can get, full screen. Last thing about this is the 2+2 thing. If you're going to, and this is going to get into right brain, left brain, and there's some debate on whether the whole left brain, right brain really is what it is, but just go with me here. For sake of discussion, right brain context is also right brain is emotion, feelings and stuff. It's the stickiness that helps us remember stuff. Left brain is data, words, numbers. Left brain stuff never sticks in our head by itself. If I say December 7th, 1941, if you have no idea what that date means, you're like, if you do, it's the day that the Germans attacked Pearl Harbor. Right. They're saying it wasn't the Germans, it was the Italians. See how easy it is to get a joke? Well, if people are like, people go, I still don't know what you're talking about. Pearl Harbor. So the attack on Pearl Harbor was December 7th, 1941. If I put the data up here, I say the US Arizona was blown up this morning, where 1,100 people lost their lives. What I'm doing right now is adding context, stickiness. Like, what are you talking about? Pearl Harbor, sneak attack. The data's there, I say the right brain context. Or flip it. I put a picture of my cat up there and I say, Snuggles. You're looking at the cat because that's dominating your brain. And I say, Snuggles. Oh man, she's harsh. But right away, I never said anything other than Snuggles, she's harsh. You're going 2+2. Must be his cat. That's making your audience work for their meal. So I've said enough. You have plenty. Go amongst yourselves. Work with your minions. Train them on this process. And the last thing I'll show you, and I want to help you with this because it's called the F words. If you don't know F words, here we go. When kids are making slideshows, they oftentimes get kind of messed up. So I go F. Let's see. Hold on a second. Word. I'm going to blow this up a little bit more. Okay. What I have the students do to start with is like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. Do you have family? Do you like food? Do you like to have fun? Do you have friends? What are you fond of? What is a fundamental thing about you? A core thing. It could be spiritual, which we have in here, faith. That's important to them. Frequency. What do they do frequently? That's legal and appropriate. Foundational. And so I just start with these F words just to rattle them off. I put them up on the screen. So when they have their brain right brainstorm thing, just to jumpstart their stuff. And I say the whole point of it, and I'll end on this, is that the goal of the presentation is for us to get to know them better, but that everybody in the audience should resonate at least once. If I have a picture of pizza, pepperoni pizza, one of you go, yeah, that's my jam. Okay, next slide. So, oh, we connected with that person. Then the next slide would be Snuggles. Yeah, oh, I like cats, or I hate cats. If they love or hate it, you connect it. Strong emotional response. So the goal is that everybody in the class will connect at least once with one concept that you present. That's the goal of the presentation. And that we are smarter than me, and our learning community will only be as strong as how much we know each other and support each other. And so tell them they can share anything they're comfortable sharing. I don't overshare. If there's something harsh going on, it's really unfortunate. You don't have to bare your soul. Some kids will want to. And I mean, if they really want to, that's fine, but that's why they're pitching it to you on paper. They're like, well, I've been bouncing from foster home to foster home, and I was this and that happened to me. And you're like, you might just say, I want you to be true and honest, but how much, do you want to share that now? Or do you want to, you can have that really discreet conversation one-on-one with a piece of paper and before it's broadcast up in front of everybody. Wow, where's my uncle in jail? And so thank you for being here. Hopefully this was helpful. And contact me if you have questions.
Oh.